Baseball is dead.
Rest in peace.
It's a Monday, right? Today's Monday?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It's a
Right
show up
back
for
at
work Monday. Yep.
Yep. Stateside. Back home.
Reality bites.
Yep. Touching that freedom. Getting off that plane, you can smell that freedom in the air. The airport. It's tremendous. It was tremendous to smell
Very
that freedom.
particular type of freedom smell at the airport. Yeah.
At Logan Airport, specifically, yes. I loved it. I had a great time. And it's back to business as usual.
Yeah.
Talking ball with the boys. Dallas Braden is, I think he was making excuses as to why he couldn't be here today. Something like that.
I believe he's getting his new life set up in the Sacramento area. His home base there. And today was internet day. This morning is internet morning. And the window just didn't work. Just didn't work for us today. So it's going to be you and me. The rock of the podcast, continues on.
That's right.
And it's good to be joined by you.
That's good to be here. I got called a sellout yesterday because I criticized the Red Sox. Something like I didn't criticize the Red Sox enough or something like that. I don't know. But you want to talk about sellouts. Dallas Braden, Mr. 209, just sacking up with the Sacramento folks. That's what you call a sellout. That's turning his back on the community, and he's just become like a cultural phenomenon in Sacramento. I thought he was a 209 guy. He's not anymore. What's the area code in Sacramento? Sacramento.
I don't know. Never been.
Code. The 916.
Yeah. Never hit the Mento, as they call it.
Yeah. I could see a world where Dallas gets 209, the tattoo that he has on his rib or his abs, if he gets that laser removed and gets a 916 now.
That would be... Dude, imagine if he became so entrenched in the Sacramento community that he got a tattoo. Although, the conversation itself is almost a little counterintuitive because it's been announced as their temporary home, right? So maybe we got to look into a Vegas. Yeah.
It's like an interim home. Like I think that they have the option to marry if they want to take it now.
I'm not quite sure where all the legal agreements stand, but I thought the Vegas thing was a go. No, thought it was a go. Man,
if only we had an expert to talk to on all this to really sort this through. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he gets all three numbers tattooed, and he just has 9 numbers, 3 area codes tattooed on his body.
Let's see, what's Las Vegas?
He becomes like a barcode.
Las Vegas area code, the 702.
I lived there for 9 months.
You lived in Vegas and you didn't know what the area code was?
Yeah, that's right. I
lived in Manhattan for 3 years. I don't know what the area code is.
Yeah, I mean, I was a sophomore in high school. Didn't even have cell phones back then, man. So really wasn't using the phone all that much, to be honest.
No. Well, the Rangers used their phone to fire their offensive coordinator. Can we talk about that first, please?
I'd love to, because that was the first thing I cared about too.
I was very thrown off by this. I saw offensive coordinator and immediately just continued scrolling because I was like, I don't give a shit about
not relevant
football.
To me. Yep.
Don't care whatsoever. Then I see it's the Texas Rangers, and I was like, this has to be a typo. Like, are we talking about the Houston Texans? Like, what are we talking about here? Why? Like, is this their hitting coach? Because I know that like the Red Sox are almost at fault for this because they had hired Ben Cherington to be their general manager.
Yeah.
And then they hired Dave Dombrowski to be their president of baseball operations.
Yep.
And they were like, no, Ben, you can stay the general manager. It's like, well, you've hired someone above me. His role is general manager, but it's just not called that. You created a tier that didn't exist. And then they hired Chaim Bloom to be their chief baseball officer. That's still just a general manager.
Title inflation is what we're getting at.
Yes. Like, so my question is, do the Rangers have a hitting coach, but the offensive coordinator is a more highly ranked position? Or do they not have a hitting coach and their offensive coordinator is their hitting coach? They just call it something else.
So I'm willing to defer it. I know they can't hear him. I'm willing to defer to Connor if he wants to, if he wants to correct me here. But my understanding was that Ecker, the guy who was fired, was the offensive coordinator overseeing the offensive hitting staff. They had a hitting coach named Tim Hires who left last offseason or like the end of the postseason or whatever to take a job with the Braves. And they hired Justin Viele or VL, whatever the pronunciation is, as hitting coach to replace him, who worked under/with Donnie Ecker, the guy who was just fired. And this Viele guy is still, per the website, part of the team. So I think it was just Ecker that was fired. The guy who was hitting coach or co-hitting coach, hitting coach, is still there. Does that answer the question?
No, I do not know. I'm so lost.
I think Ecker had his own title. There's another guy who has a title named hitting coach. Ecker is gone. The coordinator.
But the hitting coach is still there.
The hitting coach is still there.
But who had the authority?
I would think it's Ecker.
Okay.
Or at least it's a working relationship if there isn't a hierarchy. Maybe it's an equal playing field sort of thing. But I would think offensive coordinator would be above offensive hitting coach because or hitting coach rather, because I don't know, there are other offensive coaches that would be under the coordinator. I'm not. Yeah.
Things used to be so simple, Jayhay. They really did.
Yeah.
We had it good growing up.
Either way, the Ecker guy is the one who's been around since the World Series. Like he helped the team win the World Series.
Yes.
And was shown the door because the front office executive team lost patience with the current offensive state of things. Seems a little, I mean, as these things always are, it seems a little bit unfair, right?
There has to be a fall guy. Yeah. There always has to be a fall guy. Well, not always in some situations. They were talking about this on your favorite show, Felger and Maz, about how
big fan.
Yeah, you love it. 20 years ago, it would have been the example of like the Red Sox situation where you have a team that should be better than they are. Like objectively speaking, like everything that they added or was new is going exactly how they needed, but yet somehow they're 2 games off their pace from last year in the other direction. So who do you blame? Well, it used to be you'd look at the manager. You'd fire the manager or you'd blame the manager and call his contributions into question. But in the Rangers case, it's like, hey, we're not hitting the ball. Well, the fucking offensive coordinator's got to go. See you later, buddy. It's like, well, maybe you just didn't have the right pieces. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to absolve him of all blame, because if you think about it from like a narrative perspective or a expectations versus results, like there might be the only offense that you can claim is anywhere near as disappointing as the Rangers is relative to expectations before the season would be the Orioles. And I think the Rangers would still take the cake there as the most disappointing offense relative to spring training preseason expectations. I mean, they're 25th batting average, 28th in on-base percentage, 25th in slugging. WOBA, if we're just looking for an all capture, they're, the only teams with a lower offensive team WOBA are the Rockies and the White Sox. So like, that's not what our expectations were for the offense of Corey Seager and Marcus Semien and, Jake Berger offensive acquisition and Wyatt Langford breakout and, Josh Young return and all that sort of stuff. And, I think what's particularly disturbing is maybe a little bit strong, but like that Wyatt Langford has really fully broken out and the offense still has been as unproductive as it is also speaks to, I think, the level of struggle of almost every other major contributor, or at least person that was expected to contribute at a really, really high level offensively has either been way, way, way below expectations, or in the case of Corey Seager, not has played like 75% of the season.
Yeah, I mean, like I think the other name that needs to be called out here is Adolis Garcia.
For sure.
Didn't he say before the season he was going to hit 50 home runs or whatever it was? Connor, what was the number? I wish that we could fucking hear, like the audience needs to hear Connor. How do we make it so that like they can hear, like if Jake's back there or Jeremy or Connor or whoever's back there, like we need to be able to hear them for the show. How many home runs did Adolis Garcia say he was going to hit before the season? Going for 50. Okay.
Still going.
He has an 86. Yeah, he's still going for it. He's got four. So it's not like he hasn't gotten off the ground here yet. But an 86 OPS plus for Adolis Garcia, not going to get it done. Not that I didn't have tremendous expectations for a Kyle Higashioka ad, so I'm not going to call him out or anything. But Kevin Pillar, like that's a guy that it's like, man, good for him that he's still in the big leagues. It's good for him that he's scratching and clawing, not doing well, but he's there. Marcus Semien, that's a guy that needs to be called out. A 50 OPS plus. If Kevin Pillar is outperforming you, whatever, in half the amount of games, he's not an everyday guy. But Marcus Semien, that's awful.
Well,
and then you have a DH. A designated hitter who can't hit in Jock Peterson. Like he just went through an 0 for 41. And I don't think I can't recall an everyday player that had a negative OPS plus. Jock Peterson is such.
Dude, their two main off-season acquisitions from an offensive standpoint were Jock Peterson via free agency and Jake Berger via trade. And those guys, per Fangraphs, have been worth negative 1.5 wins above replacement so far this season. Like that's basically as bad as you can be offensively in what is, basically 200 combined plate appearances. I mean, that's, if you projected that over a full season, that would be the worst single season in like Major League Baseball history. But to your point about Semien, like that one to me is probably the most alarming if I'm in the Rangers front office, because, yes, you wanted an Adolis bounce back. Yes, Jake Berger was a trade acquisition. Yes, you're paying Jock Peterson money, but you are tied to Marcus Semien for a longer period of time and for much more money than those three other guys, I believe, combined. So, and I think the underlying stats on Semien are not super encouraging, because offensively, it feels like kind of the beginning of the end. He's not hitting anything of any pitch type. None of the underlying indicators are good. And this is a guy whose floor was considered high, even as his offense was deteriorating, which it had in previous seasons. This is not the first sign of offensive deterioration. His defense was always so impactful that he was always going to be a multi-win per year player. It's not like a problem, but it's not at the level that he had established from 22 to 24, 2021 to 24. And if that's the case, if we're just talking about like an overall loss of athleticism, offensively and defensively, that's like a big problem, obviously, for a guy you owe so much money.
Yeah. Well, it's not crippling. I guess that's the only compliment I can give them. It's $26 million next year and the year after, and then $20 million in 2028. And that's not an option. It's all guaranteed. And by today's standard, that's not crippling, but I mean, certainly you would like to see significantly better performance out of a guy that you've made a significant financial commitment to. The eye has not forsaken Marcus Semien. No. He's still walking, but yeah, everything else is not good.
Yeah. And not to like be super, super negative and rain on even like what's perceived as a positive for him. But, one way, and I'm not saying this is absolutely happening, but one way that, a sign of decline can occur is when a guy is searching for walks in a way that he wasn't before, because he's not afraid to swing, but maybe hesitant to swing because he knows the quality of contact is not there, or he's not confident that it's going to be there. And with his strikeout rate and whiff rate also being up with that walk rate, I just kind of wonder whether this is like kind of a temporary compensation method for Marcus Semien, and whether that walk rate is going to sustain itself. And if it doesn't, and the contact related stuff doesn't come around, then you're looking at, kind of a double problem. But
yeah,
he's not the only one, but as you said, he's the guy who's been kind of the co-face of this championship era team with Corey Seager.
No doubt. Yeah. And Seager, I mean, it's he's probably missed about 10-ish games, 10 plus games. But in the games that he's contributed, I mean, it's, I can't knock Seager. Health has always been a box that he's needed to check throughout his entire career. So that he's going to miss time. But I think what you also know about Seager is when he's in there, he's going to perform for you. And he has. When we talk about the offensive coordinator getting dismissed for some of these offensive performances, this is where we kind of draw the line on, is it the coach's fault or is it elsewhere? Because if I'm looking at this objectively, I'm not a Texas Rangers fan. I'm a Texas Rangers supporter. I love Connor, so I always want to see his team do well for his sanity and for his baseball fandom. But if I were to look at this objectively, and I would point out some of the names that we just called out, Jock Peterson is your DH. That's the guy that you brought in. He's been horrendous,
like unplayably bad. Yeah,
but I mean, he's kind of at the point where a Jock Peterson type would flame out. Like, it's not like, man, we got to unlock that thing in Jock Peterson. It's like, well, how much did Jock Peterson really have left by this point?
Well, yes, I agree with you in the sense that I don't think it's totally surprising that a player of his, let's say, somewhat limited skill set would flame out at 33 years old. What I do think is a little
softball player. He just hits.
I feel you. We're still talking about a guy who over the last 3 years had a 137 OPS plus 850 OPS, and last year was 908, 151. So like, even I know that's coming in 400-ish plate appearances, so he's being protected against situations where he's likely to be very vulnerable. But like, he had a 908 OPS and 449 plate appearances last season. He's at 334. He's like literally a third of his OPS almost from where he was last season. We're talking about over a 4-win swing from where he was. It's like, yes, that you bought into a pumpkin with Jock Peterson at the exact wrong time. Super shocking. No, even coming off the season that he did. No, not super shocking. That he's immediately unplayably bad. I think that does kind of suck.
It definitely sucks. It sucks to have your cliff be just right there when you go from a 900 plus OPS to not even hitting 100. Never mind the Mendoza line of 200. He's below the second layer of hell on the way to the center of the earth. But I guess I would put it this way. In the extreme case where, let's say, the Texas Rangers, like, how do you not, like, we signed this dude with a 908 OPS last year and he's this bad. How do you not figure it out for him? Like, how do you not unlock this thing? Or you could look at the other end of the spectrum of Wyatt Langford has broken out. Like, how does he not get the credit for that, but he gets the blame for, some of the other guys that are underperforming? When I think, is it crazy that Jock Peterson is what he is right now? Is it crazy that Marcus Semien, he's been a traditionally slow starter, pretty much since he got there? Like, what was that one year where he took like 2 months to hit his first fucking home run? And that was coming off his 40 home run season, I want to say. I think it was the World Series year. Like, he played all 162 and then he played all the playoff games. He like didn't hit a home run for like a month or something. So he's a slow starter traditionally. And you have your cornerstone homegrown player in Wyatt Langford, who is becoming everything and more in terms of what you hope that he would be. Why would a hitting coach Get blamed for the bad stuff, but not get credit for the good stuff.
I mean, I think that's fair. If I'm the if you're asking me to formulate the front office's closed door opinion, I would say we drafted Wyatt Langford 4th overall. He was as close to a finished product coming out of the University of Florida as we're going to hand our major league team or our minor league system. We believe that any development that occurred is probably more likely to be to the credit of the minor league staff than it is this gentleman, fairly or unfairly, even though he's had way more time in the majors at this point than he did in the minors. And the other performances outside of Wyatt Langford have been not just bad, but as we've laid out, they have been unsightly. They have probably been, if you're in the front office, legitimately hard to watch. And I don't know if you can fix Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia, Jake Berger, Jock Peterson on down the line, but that is probably the hope. And, yes, it's not fair that he doesn't get any credit for Wyatt Langford having a, 900 plus OPS through 105 plate appearances.
So if you look at Adolis Garcia's Savant page.
Yes. How's it
look?
It
is there. So on the surface, you're going to look at Adolis Garcia's 86 OPS plus and be like, damn, that's not what you want. And then you look at Simeon's Baseball Savant, and it's just like, oh, there's a lot of blue there. You look at Adolis Garcia's average exit velocity, he's in the 92nd percentile. Barrel rate, 87th percentile. Hard hit percentage, 83rd percentile. He's still whacking the shit out of the ball. It's just a matter of, or let me ask you, Jayhay, is this a luck thing with Adolis?
I mean, sure. I guess he's probably suffering from some level of bad luck. I would also point to
launch angle.
Yeah, I mean the fact that he's gotten extreme. That is part of what's going on here. I won't call it necessarily a problem, but I think it's interesting that, to your point, his launch angle is completely out of whack with previous career norms. That's generating a batted ball profile that is completely out of whack with his previous career. I mean, his the percentage of balls going in the air right now is basically 3 out of every 4 batted balls. That is way, way, way different, way higher than it had been previously.
He's one of the worst chasers in the sport.
Yeah. And you're talking about a batted ball thing. Like, he has a 259 batting average on balls in play. Like, there are plenty of people on this own team who have lower batting average on balls in play. Helpful to compare it to your own career as opposed to your fellow players, but his career marks 289. It was 273 last year. So if 259, yeah, maybe he's a little bit unlucky, but what does adding 15 points of batting average do for his slash line right now to you?
No, nothing. And so, I mean, if we're taking a look at the numbers, just a quick glance, it's looking like poor swing decisions and the launch angle being out of whack. Because if he were, if he drastically, even if he just cut it in half, I'm not even saying completely, if he just cut in half the bad swing decisions and weren't, I guess, hitting the ball into the fucking ground, because I mean, if you're hitting the ball harder than most people in the entire sport and your numbers are what they are, that's where a hitting coach would come in. Hey, how do we make some adjustments here? You're hitting the fucking ball on the screws, but we're not, let's put some loft on it. Well,
I mean, he's got the tied for the 5th highest chase rate in baseball. So, that is a very tight line to walk and have success. The 4 guys ahead of him are Lennon Sosa, Pete Crow Armstrong, Jackson Chourio, and Ceddanne Rafaela. So, there is a lot of different ways that swinging that frequently out of the zone can go. And even with Jackson Chourio, we're kind of seeing that, Jackson Chourio is currently running a 1.3% walk rate. Like, you basically you almost can't be a superstar running a 1.3% walk rate, which is a separate conversation. But Yeah, I mean, we'll see whether these guys get fixed and whether they can suddenly the new head of offense can suddenly make Adolis Garcia stop chasing 42% of the time when his career rate is 34. But we're also talking about, generally speaking, players that are in their prime, in the back half of their prime, or in the back end. These are not typically moldable players. So if he can fix Garcia or Semien, then good luck to him.
Yeah.
Except he was already on the staff. So
correct. Yeah, I mean it's a disappointing 17-18 start to the season for the Texas Rangers, who not everyone, it wasn't a general consensus thing, but a lot of folks had picked them at the very least to be a playoff team, but a lot I saw picking them to win the division this year. I don't know that I was one of those people. I don't believe I was.
I wasn't.
I did see it, though. Let's see. Where are my picks?
You picked the Mariners, I believe, right?
I did, yes. I did. I didn't have them making the playoffs. I had the A's making the playoffs. So right now, I'm looking pretty fucking good.
Yeah, I don't have the Rangers making the playoffs either. And I didn't buy into what they were selling. So we'll see where it goes. You and I are looking pretty fine with this one. No offense, Connor.
No offense, Connor. Also, I mean, I will own it. I do. I had the Orioles as the second wild card. Like that's just not happening. You know, that's just a bad. We're not gonna dive into another Orioles beatdown. I feel like we've
done that enough.
Yeah, we've bruised enough ribs over there for that. But yeah, 17-18, not great for the Texas Rangers. Not great. That would get you third place in the AL East, though. I mean, the AL East is fucking trash, absolute hot garbage. But what's not hot garbage? What is excellent? The Underdog Fantasy app.
Sure.
Underdog just dropped their playoff basketball promo. With the extender, you can play your way to increasingly bigger boosts each round of the playoffs. Start a playoff series by using your Game 1 boost and continue boosting each subsequent game to unlock the next one. The longer the series, the bigger the boost. You're going to want to see how serious it gets when that Game 7 hits. Hop on Underdog, the best place to make picks during playoff basketball, and get started right now. Make sure you sign up with the promo code Jared. That's JARED. To get up to $1,000 in bonus credits and a special pick on Underdog. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code Jared. Speaking of those shitty Orioles, the Royals and Orioles tied for the most solo home runs in a game. This was, I know I saw Charlie Morton pitching. He's obviously been moved to the bullpen, right? Because this was like deep into the game. Please tell me he didn't get the start.
No, he didn't start.
He did, or he did not?
He did not. It was Kyle Gibson, who might be, probably should follow Charlie Morton to the glue.
That's
factory,
what I was going to say. Like if you're piggybacking Charlie Morton with Kyle, or other way around, if you're piggybacking, you know what the fuck I'm saying.
I know what
having
you're saying.
Both those guys pitch in the same game.
Yep,
results.
They're both piggybacking, baby. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I saw the Royals hit 7.
That's right. Yep. 7 homers. Orioles pitching 9 innings, 17 hits, 11 runs, 7 home runs allowed. Orioles, to their credit, added 4 homers of their own offensively, but obviously not enough. 50% of those were by Jackson Holliday, first career multi-homer game. That was kind of fun.
Good for him. Good for Jackson. The Royals hit a franchise record 7 home runs. God bless him.
I mean, that was an offensively challenged unit prior to yesterday, too.
Yeah. I'm just glad that we called the Orioles season pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like, there are slow starts. There are teams where, they may have struggled out of the gate, but at least you see the path back to redemption.
No.
Back to the winning side of things. I feel like it's going to get worse and worse and worse for these Orioles. It's very sad.
How is it even possible? I know we said we weren't going to do Orioles stuff, but I just feel the spirit
I feel
bubbling inside me. How are you ever going to win like 3 straight games with that rotation? Like, imagine those guys stringing together like forget 3, like a meaningful win streak. Like, how can you win 7 straight games with that rotation? You can't. And if you can't do that, you're never coming back from the deficit that they're in. It's just like an abysmal rotation, and it's worse than I think anybody thought it would be. But it's also entirely predictable that it's one of the worst in the league, and not fit for a contender. It's their ERA 7 over like the last 3 weeks.
It's pretty bad
for the rotation.
Yeah. That's in my estimation, that's not going to get it done.
It's not tenable.
No, it certainly isn't. I did want to give
not tenabling. So
yeah. I did want to give a shout out to, I know that he's too good to be here, but the A's,
shout him out.
Because earlier in the program, I made reference to Boston Sports Radio, and I'm not going to name the hosts or the show. I'm not here to throw people under the bus, but this is just kind of like what the general perception of the A's must be to just float something like this. But there was a radio host who was saying, well, why don't the Red Sox, if they have a logjam in the outfield, why don't they just take one of their outfielders and trade him for Mason Miller? And I'm like, well, first of all, because that's a bad trade for Oakland, or excuse me, the A's. And second of all, the A's have a better record than you. They have a winning record. They're going to be calling you, being like, hey, can you give us some of your good players so we can actually make a run at it, you bums? So that's the public perception, is that the A's are just floating on down the road, and they're not a good team, but they're 19 and 16. I understand a negative 22 run differential, whatever. So are you trying to say? Are you trying to say you're forecasting that the A's are not going to finish this season with a winning record?
I mean, I know you guys both picked them to make the playoffs. I think I said I was more. I saw the upside more as like 500. Although I appreciated the optimism. But I will forgive the national public, the radio yackers, if they're still in let's try and pick off every A's asset mode mentally, because, I think the A's conditioned a lot of people to think that way, and that they have spent exactly one season not behaving that way lately is great, that's the direction we're heading. But, that rival fans or content creators are dreaming about Mason Miller as a trade asset. Honestly, like I know it's not popular to say for A's fans, or if Dallas was here, he would get, fake mad or whatever. And I get it. I think the A's, like, it's not crazy to entertain the idea of trading Mace. And I am not rooting for them to do that. But, if they're not squarely in the postseason picture at the deadline, and he's obviously an excellent top of line, top of league relief pitcher, I still think that makes sense fundamentally from an organization standpoint, asset allocation standpoint. But whether they have the stones, whatever, to actually pull the trigger on a Mason Miller trade, different question.
Yeah. I mean, he has,
and not right now, obviously. I'm not advocating for it right now when they're relevant.
No, he's got 3 more years of control left. He hasn't even gone through arbitration for the first time. That would take some stones, but also it just feels like it would go against everything that they've been trying to build the last year.
Yep.
It's like they're bringing in, and I'm not saying that, Severino is a big name, but he's a guy. The way that they have paid Lawrence Butler, the way that they have paid Brent Rooker, they're sending the message of, if you perform for us, you will be here, and we're building something. There's like a conscious effort being made here, which deviates away from the negative energy that they've placed upon their own franchise. Like, they've shot themselves in the foot here. But I would say over the last, call it year-ish, take away the relocation stuff, the organization is rewarding performance. And I know that if you're Mason Miller, you're saying like, hey, I'm the best reliever on planet Earth. Like, whatever the record is for the most money ever given to a reliever, like tack on another 50. Like, that's what I want. So I don't know that the A's are able to get something done with Mason, but they've got to at least try. I don't think that we can have a Mason Miller trade rumor. Like, I don't think that we get there with Mason Miller with like rumors intensifying and being validated by journalists until there's the report that the A's had approached Mason about an extension, and we were nowhere close. Then you get the trade stuff.
Agree. And I think that's what I was going to say. I think if you can get him signed to a deal, then I think that's great to keep him around if you're the A's. And I think if you can't, for whatever reason, or don't want to, I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you don't want to, then I do think exploring that idea will probably make sense, unless the A's are so good this season that you can't trade your top of line closer. And I will be rooting for that outcome for sure. But that's obviously a less than 50% chance or whatever.
It's also
it's a low percentage chance.
It's not unprecedented for a team that's in it to trade their best reliever. And I understand that we've got 3 years remaining with Mason Miller, 4 if you include like this entire year that he still has ahead of him. But in the Hader Brewers situation, that really just ripped the rug from underneath that team. Like the Brewers were walking around that clubhouse after that deal. Like we have a winning record. We're probably going to make the playoffs. And it's like our front office just quit on us.
And I think that would be, if that's what we're talking about, like where the A's are like legitimately in it and the front office makes that decision, I think that would be even less justifiable, because Mace has even more years of control than Hader had at the time of that deal. So that would be even harder pill to swallow, I think, if you're in that A's clubhouse or an A's fan or whatever. But obviously we're getting way on down the line. But if they are on track to be a 76 win team or a 77 win team in mid-July, I think that's the sort of deal that could fundamentally alter, their outlook in terms of the package it could return, or at least drastically improve their system or add pieces that could help them win as soon as 2026.
I can just see the episode coming out and Dallas quote, like just the topics being listed, like Mason Miller trade ? And Dallas
Mason Miller trade ideas. Yeah,
he's gonna be like, "What the fuck? I leave the show for one episode, and this is the discourse."
Right. And no nuance, right? Where we're saying like, "Oh, we wouldn't have done. We won't. It's not. You shouldn't entertain it unless you, But he'll just, classic media. He'll just rip the headline and run with it.
Well, he's an idiot. Like that's part of it. Like that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
It is a large problem. Since the last time we had a discussion about the NL West, the Dodgers have finally taken their place atop the division. I mean, not that we didn't think that this was going to happen at some point, but it is worth acknowledging that they have passed the pack. It is the big four, I guess, if you want to call it that. The D-backs haven't exactly gotten off to the most encouraging start. They're 2 games above 500. The Giants have been a nice surprise team. I think that they're going to stick around. I don't think that there's much flukiness to it with the Giants' hot start. And then the San Diego Padres have hauled off 5 straight wins. All that to say, the Dodgers have still passed them all, and they have taken their rightful place atop the NL West. And I'm not going to sit here because I made this mistake already in the AL East, but I'll ask you, Justin Havens, is this the last time that the Dodgers see second place or beneath?
Oh, so are you asking me that they are going to ride out in first place for the remainder of the season?
That's what I'm asking.
I will say no. I think the half game, I think there's enough variability here over the coming weeks where it could shuffle a few more times. But I feel as confident as I ever have that the Dodgers, well, maybe not ever have, but I feel very confident that the Dodgers are still going to win the division.
Yeah.
I think it speaks to no, I just think it's almost like the Juan Soto of team starts, where it's like Juan Soto has a 130 whatever OPS plus, and it's like people are, like, oh, what's wrong with Juan Soto? And you realize like people are in the Hall of Fame for having career OPS pluses of 130, and the Dodgers are 23-11 with a 676 winning percentage, and it's like, oh, can the Dodgers, are they going to be able to do it? And it's like, well, they are doing it right now with like 60% of a team. So like, do we think they're going to become less healthy than they are right now? I guess that's possible too. I guess they could continue to lose people, but we saw it last season. I don't need to see it for another second full season. before I believe that the Dodgers can win the NL West, and probably pretty comfortably with like a half functioning roster during the regular season.
I think what's so commendable about what the Dodgers are doing year over year, and it's not what everyone thinks. I'm going to say, oh, like they spend the money and the front office tries. I think they have been able to fend off complacency for so long. The fact that year in, year out, this is a team that makes the playoffs, and not just makes the playoffs, but they dominate the regular season. A baseball season is such a grind. It's so long. I don't even play the fucking games, and I'm exhausted at the end of the year from having to sit down and watch them all. Never mind all these guys that have to go out there and play all these games, win all these games after not having a shorter offseason than everyone else because they're usually in the World Series or it's a deep run into the NLCS. They've had a ton of injuries over the last half decade. You know, like a lot of these Dodger teams that have gone to the World Series or won it or been in it have been marred by injuries, and they've never once been like, you know, maybe we can just use this as an excuse, take our foot off the gas, and everyone's making excuses for us. We might as well just kind of bend the knee and take a breather. You know, we've kind of earned it. I mean, we won the World Series last year. We were in the World Series the year before that. You can't win it every year, right? But they don't subscribe to that. They subscribe to, well, what if you can win it every year? Like that seems to be the mindset, and they go out and try and prove that.
Well, and you said you weren't going to commend them for the spending, but the residue, the impact of the spending is that they often have at least a layer of new blood coming in every year, right? With offseason signings or people that might be freshly motivated or newly motivated to win a championship or to be a Dodger or to earn their next paycheck. Like Teoscar Hernandez was brought in. That was, a 1-year deal. He was probably, I'm guessing, but probably motivated for multiple reasons. And one of those was to get that new contract, which he then got because they won the World Series and he was a huge part of it. So yeah, I mean, it is commendable. It's also probably super fun to, as a fan, to get to witness that sort of offseason kind of drama unfold every offseason. It's like what the Yankees fans used to experience every offseason, where every, big target was a target of that team. And I think it just speaks to the ecosystem and the depth that they've created, and kind of like they're so insulated from catastrophe that, Corbin Burns hits the IL with a shoulder inflammation. He's going to miss one start, hopefully be back. We'll see. And Blake Snell hits the IL with a shoulder issue and is going to be out longer, at least as the established timeline, than Corbin Burns. And at least from a neutral baseball observer standpoint, one of those kind of feels like a huge deal or a potentially lurking huge deal. Whereas like the Dodgers lose Blake Snell, and I'm like, all right, see you, Blake Snell. See you when you're ready. It's like, and no other team can withstand a loss quite like the Dodgers can.
No. And it's been more than Blake Snell. Like
for sure. But like, that's a direct comparison between two free agent signings from the same division, with the same, not the same shoulder issue, but both dealing with shoulder issues. And we were all, I was high on the D-backs rotation, and I'm still am on the D-backs team, but like losing Corbin Burns feels like something like a death knell to their championship hopes. Whereas losing Blake Snell feels like, well, they could definitely still do it because they just did it without him.
Yeah.
Like we know that.
We haven't really talked about Yamamoto much recently. Like the season that he's gotten off to, whatever the discourse around the Dodgers has been like, well, this guy's just went down and that guy went down. How about the guys that are still here doing it? Because Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the man who was made the highest paid pitcher in baseball history without ever throwing a single pitch in the league, has made 7 starts to begin the year. has an ERA of 0.90, an ERA plus of 4.37. He has struck out 49 batters in 40 innings and has kept hitters in the yard for the most part. It's only 2 home runs allowed, and the whip is under 1 at 0.925. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like he got some big time. It's almost like because he was a Dodger, people were rooting for him to fail, and then when he succeeded, people just tried to ignore it for some reason. like people wanted him to like be a bust because all the teams were like, "Oh, he's coming to my team. He's coming to my team," and then he very expectedly signs with the Dodgers, and everyone was very upset about that. Just like they were upset when Roki Sasaki chose the Dodgers as well, and they wanted him to fail. And it turns out he's not failing. He's actually living up to the hype through 7 starts in 2025 at the age of 26, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, he's now made 25 starts in his MLB career, and he has a 2.35 ERA over that with 130 innings pitched, 102 hits, and 154 strikeouts. So, like, I know that the first year was a little bit clunky, and I think it's okay to have been disappointed by that, given the expectations, even though it was a 3 flat ERA. 90 innings pitched, I think, is legitimately a letdown. But I think we are seeing, to your point this season, that the Dodgers were, quote unquote, right to view him the way that they did as a free agent. And, you know, the only thing really missing now, which is missing from, even, most aces, quote unquote, is just bulk. Like he's only thrown 40 innings pitched in 7 starts, which, maybe that's what we're talking about. Maybe it's 5-6 innings a start, but it's just utter dominance over those 5, 6 and a third innings or whatever it is. So yeah, it's awesome. He's the overwhelming favorite for the Cy Young if you can have that through a month of the season. But 0.90. I think I looked it up last week. He was the 3rd player age 26 or younger ever to post 40 or more strikeouts and 4 or fewer earned runs allowed in March and April of a single season. The only other instances of that were Fernando Valenzuela in 1981 and Zach Greinke in 2009. So, historic performance in some perspectives.
Opposite end of the spectrum here. It's not that he's been bad, but he hasn't been great. Roki Sasaki, it's a 3.86 ERA, but it's a 5.38 FIP.
Yeah.
It's 20 walks and 24 strikeouts in 30 and a third innings pitched. I have been quite underwhelmed with Mr. Sasaki through 7 innings, but 7 starts. But I kind of defer to the Yamamoto situation where, Yamamoto wasn't this disappointing last year, but it was disappointing nonetheless. It's probably more so because of the missed time than anything, more so than the performance. But Sasaki's taken the ball, and no part of me is like, this guy can't miss.
Yeah, and I know, I appreciate that you're showing patience or whatever, but I do think it is a little bit different. It's different for sure than the Yamamoto situation, who was like an award-winning pitcher over in Japan before coming over, whereas Sasaki was more like a phenom who, as we've established at this point, had taken a step back stuff-wise the year prior to coming over, and the famous letter or whatever it was, the plea to the team, the pitch, who can help me get my stuff back, essentially. There are signs. Obviously, the results on the split finger have been very nasty overall on the season, with a 156 batting average against and a 39% whiff rate. So that's obviously playing. But like, I think you're right to be underwhelmed here. I think you're right to say it's been disappointing. It's the second highest walk rate among qualified starting pitchers behind Randy Vasquez this season. It's just, and he doesn't have a strike, like his strikeout rate's meh, and it's certainly not good enough to justify a 15% walk rate. So, very young, very early. I mean, if I was playing fantasy, I do play fantasy baseball. If I was playing fantasy, I would still be in buy mode on Roki Sasaki from like a keeper asset standpoint. But in the interim, I'm not sure we're seeing immediate signs that like there's a turnaround imminent. I think it's very much still a work in progress, and one that I think they're kind of been forced into working through because of the other issues in their rotation.
Yeah. Nah, I'm absolutely with you in the terms of it's too soon to. If someone were to ask me, what have your impressions of Roki Sasaki been? I would say underwhelmed. Like, I'm very underwhelmed by it. But that's not to say that the rest of his career is going to be underwhelming. Not. That's not saying, I don't believe in the guy's ability, but 7 starts in, quite underwhelming. The walks being up and the strikeouts being down, it's just, I don't know. It's not a good, it's not a fun thing to watch. So.
No, and like, he's not getting swing and misses out of the zone, and he's entirely too hittable when he has been in the zone. So that's a tough combination, and a guy who relies on a splitter, it kind of like the fundamental part of that is getting swings and misses on splitters out of the zone. And if that's not happening at a certain rate, then the formula doesn't really work. And that's part of what we're seeing.
Yeah. Also just a credit to how good the Dodgers are that in those 7 starts, they've won 5 of those games.
I was gonna ask you what that was. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They've won 5. So there's that. I will say that walking around London, I was like, some days like you'd get up in the morning and it'd be freezing out, and then by lunchtime you're sweating your ass off. I'm like, man, I wish I had some Mack Weldon over here.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Because fortunately, Mack Weldon has everything that you need to stay cool, comfortable, and stylish, regardless of the temperature. Their new Tech Linen line combines the easy charm of classic linen with Cool Max technology to help you look and feel your best all season long. Explore polos, sweaters, hoodies, and more at MackWeldon.com and get 25% off your first order with the promo code Jared. I did, however, bring some of those polos with me, which was nice. Because I do, we were walking around, we did a lot of walking. And when you're doing a lot of walking, you do a lot of sweating. Mm-hmm. So that's why Mack Weldon is the choice for you. Because it can be stylish. It's a great fit. But if you're like me and you're working up a lather, walking around the streets of London, well, you want something that's not going to let you down.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
What was that thing that you got to, that destination that you were walking to in London, where you finally got there and you were like, this was worth it?
The building where they did the rooftop concert.
That's pretty cool. Good answer. Yep.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Get Back came out probably 2-3 years ago. So like, I mean, that was whatever it was, like 10 plus hours of footage. Like, you felt like you lived there. You felt like you saw every corner of it. And then to be able to stand outside and look up and see the neighborhood that had Beatles music blasting. It was their last live performance ever. Pretty cool. Yeah.
And you were wearing your Mack Weldon.
I was wearing my Mack Weldon at the time. Yep. Looking confident doesn't always mean calling attention to your clothes. Mack Weldon balances classic pieces with updated details to keep you looking sharp. They're not flashy, just classic. Always in style and made from the world's most comfortable performance materials. Mack Weldon clothes are designed to fit your style and the demands of modern life. They look like regular clothes, but they feel like the latest in modern comfort. They're the go-to choice for guys who want to look great without even trying. That's pretty much Jayhay's motto. Look great without even trying. Justin Havens. Breathable underwear that keeps you cool, dry, and comfy all day. Crazy comfortable and elevated sweatpants. Give your closet a breath of fresh air for spring. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 25% off your first order of $125 or more with the promo code Jared. MackWeldon.com, promo code Jared. McKweldon.com, promo code Jared. In Liverpool, though, one of the coolest spots that we went to was the Casbah. Did I tell you about this already?
Did you rock it?
I wanted to, but I didn't.
Oh, okay.
So the Casbah is...
Well, Sharif wouldn't like that, so it's good.
Right. Right. It's basically a house, and it's the basement. There's like an older woman who I believe is somehow related to Pete Best. I couldn't quite nail down exactly it's not Pete Best's grandmother, but it's something like that. It was her basement, and she opened up a rock and roll club in the basement. And this is like the origin of the Beatles. So this entire basement, like Paul McCartney painted like a rainbow on the ceiling above like where they played in like this hallway, like a legit hall, like the room that I'm in right now it's probably like a little bit more narrow. It was super just weird. Like it was very small. And the original paint that Paul McCartney painted was on the ceiling still. And John Lennon in the first room, before you came into that room, he painted like a bunch of designs on the ceiling, and it's still there. And like you can touch it. It's not like for some crazy reason, it's not like
walled off,
plasticed off. Yeah. And then John carved his name in the wall with a pocket knife. And then in the ceiling, because they knocked down another wall and they made the stage bigger, he carved his name. It was like John is back in the ceiling, and that's still there. And you can just touch it. There's no one telling you like, oh, don't touch that. Like you can touch whatever you want.
Smudge. Yeah. You wouldn't smudge it, but don't rub it away. Yeah.
So then we were there, and then maybe 2-3 hours later, we went to the Beatles Museum where they recreated the basement. And it was basically like walking around, but like we were just in the real thing. Like it was pretty fucking cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I enjoyed it.
So you touched John Lennon's name?
I did. Yeah. Pretty sweet. Lance McCullers is back. Woo!
I mean, 3 years is a long time.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. Welcome back.
Yeah. I don't like him.
Do you have a beef with him? Yeah, I was just going to ask. This feels like a beef. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost track. I lost that document where I was keeping track of all the beefs. That's my bad.
I mean, it's a dormant beef. It was kind of just one.
Well, now, it's because he's been missing.
That's true. I believe this was in 2020 that we had some sort of exchange. I don't even remember. I think I called him a baby about something. He was, I don't know. I think he was whining about something, and I can't remember. It's so insignificant. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember it was during the 2020 playoffs, and he deactivated his account after and then popped back up in like the off season. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, listen, if you guys got beef, we don't have to give him too much airtime here, but I think it's notable just because he is back. I don't know that you can really be projecting him for much impact necessarily. I mean, you're obviously rooting for impact, but projecting is a different thing. But that he's back after last having pitched in 2022 is, I think, is kind of cool and a testament to continuing to stick with it, which a lot of people would give up. A lot of arm injuries for that young man.
He should give up. That's my opinion.
All right. Well, so, we come down on two different sides of that, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's fair.
Usually you and I agree on a lot of stuff, but on the topic of Lance McCullers giving up or not giving up, you're saying give up, and I'm saying
give up.
Yeah, I'm saying don't give up. You are saying give up.
Call it quits. Yeah. I mean, it's okay to disagree. It's okay to have different opinions, especially on a show like this. I feel like people like when we debate things and don't agree on everything.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not going to get contentious over Lance McCullers' career, but I know it's healthy that we're disagreeing, and
sure,
maybe I'm going to root a little extra hard for Lance now.
Yeah, that's fine. This country was founded on differing opinions.
It was. Yep.
The most American thing you can do is to disagree with each other, I'd say.
Yes. Yep. Very, yep. Very cathartic. And especially over something like this, I think America probably comes down on pretty polarizing topic like Lance McCullers continuing his career or not.
Yeah, there was an element of like, don't let people know that you're American while you're there.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I don't know.
How did you do with that? Concealing your America? I don't feel like that would have gone very well. What did you try to become?
I didn't care because I knew I could beat anyone up if they had a problem with America or me.
Wow. Did you tell them that while they were there? Did you announce your presence at like when you got in London or when you went to Liverpool, where you're like, listen, this is Jerry Carabas, the American here. And if anybody's got a problem with that, I will beat you up.
Yeah. I mean, most
kind of like over the town
years old,
speaker.
Yeah.
A lot of olds. You said Liverpool was very tired and worn.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, most of them were crackheads. So.
Oh my.
Yeah.
But I'm not. You think you could beat up crackheads?
Yeah.
I'd be very afraid to fight one.
Yeah, I could beat up most people. I think London was pretty tame, but Liverpool, those are the people that, you punch them in the face and they like laugh. Those people are crazy. Like Liverpool, you don't want to fuck with those people. Like Paddy the Baddy. Like it's like, actually, when we were at the Casbah, I was talking to the guy that was like the tour guide, and I was like, because I thought Paddy the Baddy was Irish, because Liverpool accent and Irish accent very similar. They have very similar phrases. And I was like, is Paddy the Baddy from Liverpool? And he was like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. Like he drinks over there, and like his like local pub was just mere feet away from the bar that the Beatles got their start at. So you don't want Paddy the Baddy walking around. Like he'll beat your ass.
So you couldn't take him?
No. I like my chances much better in London.
Oh, okay. So you could beat the London folk, but not the Liverpool folk.
Yeah, Liverpool. They're scary there. That was like it was like The Walking Dead a little bit.
Well, I'm glad you made it out alive. Although that would have been incredible podcast content if you were swallowed up by the Liverpool Walking Dead.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, Like I feel like in we were flying from Liverpool to Amsterdam, and there was like a gentleman that was trying to maneuver to his, he had a connecting flight, but we also had a connecting flight. And he just, wiggles his way past the line, and my sister has no filter. So she was just like, fucking excuse me, the fuck? He's like, I'm trying to make a flight. And she's like, we're all trying to make a fucking flight, asshole. Go fuck yourself. But my sister has the worst Boston accent of all time. And I needed to explain to her, I was like, listen, when you mouth off to people, and especially like this dude, he's not going to like try to fight you. Like I'm going to have to be the person that has to fight this guy. I don't want to fight this guy. I just got off a flight. Like I'm chilling. I just ate a bunch of pistachios. Like, come on.
How do you end up with your accent and your sister end up with a super thick Boston accent?
I had a super thick Boston accent for a long time. And then I started doing TV and I heard myself. I think like if you're not someone that's familiar with being on camera or hearing yourself, you don't notice it as much when you're just talking out your mouth. But then if you see yourself and hear yourself on audio and video, then you're like, oh my God, that's what I sound like.
Yeah, it's awful. I hate how I sound.
Yeah. So when I started doing like TV stuff in probably 2015-ish.
Got it. So you tried it. You corrected it. It was a conscious decision. Not corrected it, but you changed it.
I guess. Yeah. I guess I made it was more of a subconscious effort to not sound like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
You just smoothed it out. Just gave yourself kind of like that generic American accent.
That default accent. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. But her accent is horrendous. You have to hear it.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever met your sister, but when I do, I'll say, can I hear your accent?
Oh my God. She'll be happy to tell you.
Yeah. I mean, I have and had relatives in Boston and New England that have, the classic accent. So I'm familiar with what we're talking about, but you don't want to lose that part of I like regional accents,
Yeah.
You don't want to lose that special feature of America.
I guess one of these days I'll have to call her and have her on the show to just talk, and people will be like, what the hell?
Well, it's cool that you can call up somebody from Boston and there's still people that talk like that or whatever. You could, the people from Philly that are walking around saying water, and all that sort of stuff, and all your classic
Ramos.
regionals. Yeah. Yeah. Wilson Ramos. Anyway. Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. So last night we recorded section 10. One of the main focal points of the show was the Tristan Casas season-ending injury that he sustained over the weekend.
Bummer.
I obviously gave my take on it. Would love to hear yours.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's about as devastating of an injury as you can have for a player who was playing as poorly as Tristan Casas was playing on the whole. Typically you lose a guy with a 580 OPS, which was the fourth worst among qualified first basemen, behind three people who just fundamentally don't matter in the contender sense. And you would say, okay, well, that's going to be relatively easy to replace. And unless you're telling me something, and God knows you could definitely have something to tell me that I don't know about the Red Sox. I don't see anything depth chart wise internally, either on the major league roster or at a level of the minors that matters for this conversation to be like, this is the guy they're going to be plugging in, and this is the answer to the question. Like I know Gonzalez is the guy they're plugging in. To me, he's not the answer to the question. And I've heard from various other people, different formats of Connor Wong playing first base and Rafael Devers getting a shot at first base. And, even the real freak stuff of Roman Anthony getting a shot at first base. And none of those feel like the right answer either. So with some of them being more ridiculous than others. That's my team-wide answer. I think they're in a very tough spot replacing that production, because I did expect Tristan Casas' production to pick up substantially from where it was. Like I know my reputation as it relates to my opinion on him is one thing with a lot of listeners. I was actually quite optimistic on him as a player and have been for quite a long time. And it's a tough blow. And from his end, I mean, obviously it's basically as devastating. It's hugely devastating. Obviously, it's a huge injury. It's a hard one to come back from. And his performance was really bad. So the last taste he's going to have of baseball for quite a long time is going to be a miserable start to his 2025 season. And frankly, an incomplete 2024. So you have to go back to 2023 when he was probably feeling really good about where he was in baseball and the place of it. And that's a long time when we're talking about the recovery window for this particular injury and where he is. And then, not to belabor it, but internally, he's probably thinking, where am I in the Red Sox picture now? Am I even part of the picture when we talk about my recovery from this injury and where the team will be, where the position will be, where I'll be contract wise? It's complicated and it's unfortunate in a lot of ways. Am I off there? No,
I think you're spot on. Outside of how would you replace him? Like, the conversation now is Rafael Devers moving to first base. I think others, and I'm not opposed to either option. I just don't know that they're going to do either one of them. First being Rafael Devers at first base. Second being, what about moving Christian Campbell to first base and then calling up Marcelo Meyer to play second base?
Yeah. I would I don't love the Devers to first base idea. Is my gut move. Unless you are, I guess, really committed to that being a long-term answer for Rafael Devers. Like I don't know. And listen, if people feel differently, this is fine. It's not something I'm super passionate about, but I don't know that I want Rafael Devers at first base being a temporary thing that I'm kind of patching through to get to the next possible solution. I do prefer, to your point, the Christian Campbell thing. I know there are some segments of the fan base who are not thrilled with him being jerked around position wise. I do think, from what I'm gathering, he seems to have the versatility to be able to handle that. But I think, I know that trades are not super popular right now, and that more to the point, teams are not looking to jettison players that are helpful or matter to them. But I think ultimately the answer here might have to be external, and it might have to be, maybe not a shiny, glamorous first base piece, because I'm not sure that's going to even pop up on the market. But I'd be curious if, in a couple of, in a month, in 6 weeks, what the market on a Nathaniel Lau would look like. That sort of thing.
Mm.
I know that's not super exciting, but
no.
And I said Lau. I meant obviously
Low.
Nathaniel Lowe. But the he's slugging, or he's got a 777 OPS and a 120 OPS plus in 145 plate appearances so far this year. That is in line with his career marks across the board. That to me would represent some real improved certainty floor for the Red Sox first base situation relative to what they're having right now. And I think at some point the Nationals are going to, realize that they're probably not in the picture at 16 and 19. It's probably not yet, but maybe a target like Nathaniel Lowe.
I
can tell that doesn't. I can tell that does nothing for you.
No, it doesn't. I just think that Raffy to first base frees up. Do
you think he can handle it defensively? Like, do you think that's a thing that's okay?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the bar is so low. I mean, we had Casas over there. He stinks, and we haven't had a actual first baseman there since 2020. When was Mitch Moreland here last? 2019. They put Bobby Dahlbeck there. He's not a first baseman. They put fucking Kyle Schwarber there. He's not a first baseman. They've just been like putting guys over there. They're like, yeah, you can play first base. Why not? And it's like people look at Raffy like he's like, oh, he's this big, chubby DH. It's like he's been a DH for a month, dude. He was just playing third base for the last decade. Like he can play first base.
Yeah, I would defer to you on his ability to play first base, or whether that would be a shift that would be able to go smoothly. Obviously, if that's doable, then that is the cleanest option here in terms of now and moving forward. But I just do wonder what level of external poking around they end up doing in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm sure that they'll do it. I mean, like last year, what did they do? They got who's that fucking. Oh man! Who was it? They got some slapdick to play first base last year. He was terrible. Garrett Cooper, he was fucking awful.
Yeah, the bar has got to be a little higher than that this season, I think. Sorry, not to like beat this over the head, but like Nathaniel Lowe's career OPS plus is better than Casas's. So like I know that our expectations for what Tristan Casas was going to be are higher than they ever were for Nathaniel Lowe, but like that may not really be that much of a difference. And I know I'm just one guy on a team that's only 3 games above or below 500 who's not actively available, but I don't know. I feel that like that's maybe more of a 1-for-1 swap than those two names would lead you to believe initially.
It's interesting to see how it'll play out. I don't know. It doesn't sound like there's a ton of urgency over here. They're not like scrambling to replace Casas right now.
Should they be? Like, what is the scramble? Because you're not going to overpay for the sort of solution that I was just tossing out. You're not going to pay a premium prospect to go get a guy like that. So aren't you just kind of stuck waiting on the situation? Like, isn't it just an unfortunate injury to a player on your depth chart that you just didn't have a perfect solution for?
I mean, it depends on how creative you want to get. I think now is the time. If you, right now in the streets of Boston, they're saying fire Cora, fire the hitting coach,
Jesus
fire
Christ.
this guy, fire that guy. And they're 18-18, which is very disappointing. They're off their pace from last year, which is also disappointing. So for me, obviously, I'm not firing the manager. But I do think that you need to shake things up. And there are ways that you can shake things up and make the team better internally. We just named 2 of them. So, yep. And I don't believe, and I know that like it's been suggested so many times, like, why can't Roman Anthony play first base? Well, because he's an outfielder and he's 20 years old, and you don't want to hurt his development as an outfielder, where ultimately that's where he has the most value. That's where he's going to play as a big leaguer. Like, you don't use Roman Anthony as an emergency first baseman. He is the number 1 consensus best prospect in Major League Baseball. So that's why he's not your first baseman. But if you take Rafi and move him to first base, then that opens up DH. You can use Masataka Yoshida again if you'd like to, because he obviously can't throw. That's like a big thing over here. But then you can also factor in Roman Anthony for some DH. You can just get him up here. Like, what are we doing? It's like he's wasting his time now in AAA. You can have him get some plate appearances as a DH, and surely you can have Rafaela. And I love the defense, but you can option him. You can move him to a bench role, but there is an odd man out in the outfield. Like there's opportunity for the Red Sox to get Roman Anthony up here. That's why, I went on that whole rant last night about like people were saying like, why aren't you going scorched earth on this team right now? It's like, well, because I see the path. Like they can, I'm not fully confident that they're going to fucking follow the path that I'm seeing, but there's absolutely a path that this team can take. It's still early enough to where, put Christian Campbell at first base, move Meyer to second base, call him up, call up Roman Anthony, send down Rafael. Like the team doesn't have an identity. Well, it'll certainly take one on if you call up the big 3. You have them all in there every day. Sure, why not?
I mean, I think people asking you to go scorched earth on a team that is 500 and 2 games out through 36 games would almost be unhinged. I think like this. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too far removed emotionally from the Red Sox to ever get like that. But this is just not a scorched earth situation to me. I still have a lot of optimism about the situation. I agree that Roman Anthony kind of has to come up and is forcing the situation. Like, we're now at, I picked a random sample, but over his last 11 games, we're at a 913 OPS with a 360 batting average. So that's, slightly above, his overall season line. So he's not cooling off in any sort of way, or slightly above in batting average, slightly below in OPS slugging. So yeah, I mean, I think what I always go back to with the Red Sox and the roster construction and Roman Anthony is that I just believed that the AL East would be far too competitive and the Red Sox too imperfect of a team, even if I think they're good and pick them to win the division, for them to be not putting their best foot forward. And it's just getting more and more obvious that Roman Anthony is part of their best foot forward. And, Marcelo Meyer might very well be as well. So that would excite me as a fan if they could get that up. But I guess first step to your point has to be Devers to first.
Would love that, Jayhay. I would love that almost as much as I would love if the folks at home downloaded the Game Time app, because this is the way. Yeah,
it must happen.
This is the way. Has to happen. Game Time makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer that it gets the first pitch. They have killer last minute deals, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. It's been a minute since I've been to Fenway. I think I haven't been since opening day. I haven't had the chance to just go. It's been lot of trips and things that I have taken me away from my one true love, going to baseball games. It's time.
I haven't been since opening day.
Yeah. Like it's time, Jayhay. We've got to go back. Last minute deals, save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. We've never been to a game together. Like, I mean, we did the opening day in St. Louis, but like we've never done like Fenway together.
Well, we did. I mean, we did that one where you graciously
got
my
game though, but we didn't like sit down and like watch the game together.
I guess that's true. I went and watched it. You left. You had other obligations, right? And I watched the rest of it with my family up there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's right. I guess we did the A's game.
Oh yeah,
we did the Manaea no-hitter.
Yeah,
that might be the only example other than the Cardinals game, which was a partial game, of us sitting in the stands, taking in the game together.
Yeah, we got to change that.
Let's do it.
With Game Time. Save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Save even more when you choose a section and you let Game Time choose the seats for you. Know your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy your tickets, and the lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry today. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code BID for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the promo code BID for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Was there anything else that tickled your fancy today, Justin Havens?
No, I think we did. I think we did this justice, particularly with Dallas blowing us off.
Yeah, that is true. That dick. I saw that you included the update on the fan that fell in Pittsburgh. He had his tube removed. He, I believe, was able to somewhat communicate verbally and was like communicating via squeezing someone's hand. So that's always positive. He's 20 years old. Like when I saw the video, I was like, oh, this is got to be like an older gentleman, but he's a 20-year-old kid. I mean, anyone that was like, I saw like people on the internet being like, oh, he jumped. And if you're a drunk idiot, blah, blah. It's like, you've never been, first of all, it was a freak accident. Like nothing about it was intentional. I think it just, I don't know. It just kind of goes to show how desensitized people on the internet are these days, and how, I don't know. Well, it's like, there's a lot of cruel people out there where like that, like you see something like that and your first thing is like, how do I make a joke about this? Like, you don't even know if the guy's okay. And he wasn't, and he's not yet. He's got a long road to recovery. But yeah, all the best to him and his family, who are probably mortified looking at the internet, seeing all the fucking things that people were saying about this.
Yeah. Yeah. Not everything, to your point, not everything requires a take. I don't have one for this. I didn't have one when we talked about it last week. And it's cool that the guy is not dead. And I'm not trying to be funny. That's great news. And, if you want to cast judgment, that's fine. I've certainly had enough to drink where in times in my life where I could have made very serious mistakes, and I was fortunate not to. And this is being treated as an accident. By all reports, it was an accident. So just sucks. But it doesn't suck that he's alive.
Right. All the best to him and his family.
Yep.
All right. Our picks are back tomorrow. Picks are back tomorrow. Yes.
Yes. Tuesday. Yep.
Picks are back Tuesday for me and Dallas. And Dallas presumably will be back on Wednesday. Jayhay, do you have any nugs for us before we get out of here?
Yes, I do. Pull them up here. Of the 5 largest year-over-year declines in average bat speed from 2024 to 2025, 3 of those players play for the New York Mets: Francisco Lindor, Mark Vientos, and Juan Soto. Not totally sure what to make of that yet, because not universally bad seasons there, but something to keep an eye on. Kind of odd. Jackson Holliday, first career multi-homer game. He's now third on the all-time list in multi-homer games by a player with the last name Holliday, behind Matt, who has 22, and Bug Holliday, who has 5. So, a little bit of ways to go for Jackson, but we'll see if he can catch Bug. Kyle Tucker and Pete Crow Armstrong are just the second pair of teammates in MLB history to each produce 9 or more homers and 8 or more stolen bases through their first 34 games of a season. The only other instance is Eric Davis and Cal Daniels for the 1987 Reds. I've said it before. If you are a younger person who does not remember Eric Davis, go take a look at his baseball reference page and that mid to late 80s run that he put together for some eye-popping stuff. Imagine having him on your fantasy team. Speaking of fantasy team, Jake Myers over the weekend became the first player since Ralph Kiner in 1950 and the first AL player since Joe DiMaggio in 1937 to have a game with 2 or more homers, a triple, a double, and 7 or more RBI, which he did. Obviously, pretty cool day by Jake Myers. And special nug, Bob Nightingale called attention to this, so I wanted to make sure that we called attention to it on the pod. Alex Verdugo, the guy made history on Sunday by, I don't know if you saw this, by becoming the first player to ever be mic'd up on 3 different teams for Sunday Night Baseball. So first player ever. A lot of people said that couldn't be done. Getting mic'd up by 3 different teams on Sunday Night Baseball, but Alex Verdugo did it. So congratulations to him. And just one more thing on that Juan Soto. I know a lot's been made of his slow start, but I can't get over the idea that people are panicking over a guy with a 133 OPS plus this season. I just want to read a few people whose career OPS pluses are lower than what Juan Soto has done during his disastrous start to the 2025 season. Tony Gwynn, Matt Holliday, Joe Morgan, Rafael Palmeiro, Mo Vaughn, Wade Boggs, Rod Carew, J.D. Martinez, Roberto Clemente, Nelson Cruz, Jose Ramirez, Carl Yastrzemski, and Josh Donaldson. Something to think about.
It is. Shout out Josh Donaldson, by the way.
Those are the Nuggs.
No. Any final thoughts?
Yes, I do have a final thought. I'm interested in Paul Skeens. He gets his quote unquote shot at revenge at our hometown Cardinals on Tuesday. As I do for every Paul Skeens start, I will be trying to tune in and take that in, even if he's been a little bit less, eye-popping than he was during his debut. Obviously, still much must-watch stuff. And the Cardinals, to the extent that any team has had Paul Skeens' number in terms of getting wins, at least, it's been the Cardinals. We'll see whether he can reverse that trend on Tuesday. Those are my final thoughts.
Okay. Maybe we'll take a deep dive on Wednesday into what's going on with Skeens.
I'd love to do like a single player deep dive, like where we all look at it ahead of time and then just, kind of pick it apart.
Yeah, let's do that.
We tell Dallas no stats.
Yeah, he's gonna. I don't know what the hell Dallas is gonna do. Who knows if he's even gonna be there on Wednesday? Don't know if that guy's gonna show face. But nevertheless, picks return Tuesday from Dallas and myself, and Baseball is Dead returns with more of your favorite baseball content on the entire internet. By the way, we thank you for that.
So much.
Not my words. That's just everyone else has been saying best baseball content on the internet. So, I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. All the folks behind the scenes appreciate it. All the love and support. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We appreciate that as well. And we'll see you guys on Wednesday.
We're gone.